Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Index Office Hours. Today is the 17th of December for all of you, and the 18th for me because I am still in Thailand and it is midnight. There's lots that I read presentation for. Yes, this is very true. So it's a special one. So as I usually go through. If anyone is new to Index Office Hours, this is the town square for graph ecosystem participants to come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers. As always, this is a conversation. We love participation, so if you'd like to get involved in today's conversation, please do get involved via voice or text. And if you're having any challenges with the voice, do let me know and I'll try and get that sorted for you. As a reminder, this is a session that's going to be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube. So if you are concerned about privacy, please bear that in mind. With that, let's get into today's opening remarks. So we've got the latest GRT IQ episode, which is 199 with 𝗨𝘀𝗀𝗧𝗧 Davis. And 𝗨𝘀𝗀𝗧𝗧 is a crypto content creator and has a YouTube channel talking about various aspects of crypto, mainly from the investing side. And so if you'd like to get him, if you'd like to have a listen to the episode, I would highly recommend doing so, which I believe should be in the comments here. As always, mine is super speedy, very nice. So yeah, do check that out. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Anna for our regularly scheduled Repo Watch section.
Thank you, Abel, and hello everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Awesome. Okay, so on Repo Watch, we have quite a few releases, so going straight into it, starting with Read. We have two versions here. So the least recent one is 113, which introduces some performance enhancements, bug fixes, and breaking API changes, including new node primitive abstractions. This is a medium update priority for read users and a low priority for all other users. Please do check the release notes for the breaking changes. Then we have version 114 here, which releases fixes for the from string implementation for the minor variant, which is required for the OP batcher. Again, this is an important fix for core OP read functionality. Then we have a new release on Firehose Ethereum. This is version 2.8.2. This release updates Firehose core to 168 and introduces improved substreams performance through reduced memory allocation and the removal of unnecessary tracing. There are also some new flags added to enhance client connection management. This is a performance improvement, so not immediately critical, so update at your own convenience. Then we have a new release of Nethermind. This is version 1.30. This release addresses a startup crash for Nethermind users and fixes JSON RPC module handling after the .NET 9 upgrade. Both of these updates are important for maintaining system stability, so it's important to fix to add this release into your stack. Then moving on to consensus layer client, here we have a new release from Prism. This is 5.2.0, which includes mandatory updates for MEV Boost users to prevent fallback to local blocks amid gas limit increases. It also introduces QUIC as the default protocol and other various improvements that are more related to validator operations. This is a red urgency indicator, so it's a mandatory update to prevent execution fallbacks. So if you're using Prism, do go ahead and update this. Then going to Teku, new release 24.12.0 includes critical bug fixes and performance improvements for block publishing that are particularly beneficial for operators using locally produced blocks. This release includes no immediate breaking changes, but operators should prepare for metric name changes in the next release. This is a media emergency, so important updates were not immediately critical. Then Nimbus, we have version 24.12.0, which introduces support for bootstrap nodes.yaml specification, improving node configuration. Again, a low urgency release that operators may update at their own convenience, but within 2 weeks. We also have Lighthouse, so this is version 6.0.1, which has some minor issues, addresses some minor issues and optimizes features from the previous version, including improvements in state management and bug fixes. You should ideally upgrade to this release for better performance, but again, it is not critical due to the nature of fixes. Also, this update is backwards compatible with .5 releases. And then moving on to the graph stack, here we have two new releases from Indexer agent, so TypeScript version. So the more recent one is version 0.21.10, which reduces subgraph pagination verbosity, removes die injection feature, and adds supports for Boba BMB, as well as a fix for Blast. This is a performance improvement and not critical. And then finally, the last release from Indexer service, the most recent one is version 0.21.11, which includes an optimization for round trips in subgraph deployment, enhancing performance. You should consider updating to this release to benefit for the improved efficiency. We are currently running this release on Arbitrum Sepolia without any issues. And with that, over to you, Juan.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, getting into Protocol, we have quite a few things to cover. First of all, forum governance. We have some updates to the Evolving the Graph Protocol Economics thread, which again, it's quite an extensive topic. So if you're interested in that, you can follow the thread. I think we'll discuss this later, maybe too. Correct me if I'm wrong, Abel. But yeah, anyhow. Then we have GIP 81, which is indexing payments. This is a new GIP that supersedes, I think it was GIP 58, which was a GIP to replace bonding curves with some sort of direct indexing payments or indexing payment as an incentive for indexing rather than curation. The main goal is to ensure that developers can properly incentive indexers to get their subgraphs synced without having to meddle with all of the details of curation, which again, as many of you have probably used, it's hard to gauge how much curation you need to put in to get some sort of quality of service that you expect. So yes, this GIP kind of like comes as a potential solution to this problem. Then we have GP 67, which is deprecate the L1 mainnet protocol. This is an old GIP, but it's just a reminder that the due date for the deprecation was, I think it was on the 27th or 28th of December. Given that it's going to be in the middle of the holidays, I think it's eventually going to be done. The full deprecation of L1 will be done during January to avoid, having end of the year things that could go wrong. Mostly to avoid that those kind of edge cases that could happen, but nothing should happen. Then we have two disputes, GDR22 and GDR23. Both of them are ongoing. There's an ongoing discussion on them. Apparently, there's some kind of deterministic error, and dispute was about POI duplication, or rather closing allocations with the same POI. But at least on the GDR22, it seems that it's mostly because of an issue with the subgraph. GDR23, we're waiting on responses from the indexer. That's pretty much it. And then there's an announcement, which is the expanded arbitration council and updates on the POI task force, which we can summarize as that we've hit the milestone of having 5 people on the arbitration counsel to, decide on disputes, as well as a reminder to anyone that has to, interact with the disputes, to remember that the official channels for all of these discussions are the forum and the particular threads for each of the disputes. So if you're interested in, giving more context on a dispute that you're involved, either as the fisherman or as the victim, so to speak, you should do that through the appropriate forum post rather than do it privately. But yeah, all that aside, it's good that we finally have a healthy, arbitration rather than what we had before, which was, quite complicated. Then for forum research, we don't have any new updates. For the contracts repository, there are a bunch of open PRs for audit fixes from the latest round of trust audits. And yeah, we don't have anything new for the network subgraphs, so that's pretty much all for Protocol Watch. And I don't know if Pekka's around. I don't see him, so I'm gonna be, giving it back to Abel now.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for your sections there. I really do appreciate that. Any luck with the audio issues, Ricky? Yeah. You came off mute there, but I couldn't hear you. Maybe try sharing your screen.
Test. Can you hear me? I can see.
Yes.
Yes,
we can.
we can.
Amazing.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea. I never had to set up this way, but yeah, thank you for the help, Derek. Okay. Let me try and share my screen. Okay, so do I have to always hold it? Okay. Yeah, so I just sharing so yeah, just some stuff I've been working on. So yeah, thank you so much for letting me provide an update here. Also, thank you so much for all the amazing messages that Chris forwarded me. That was really hilarious. And yeah, just been really amazing to feel so welcome by the community. And yeah, thank you everyone. I do feel really sick right now, but I'll do my best to kind of show some of the things I've been working on. So at IOH 183, I showed a user interface that I've been building out to manage all the moving parts of my indexer automatically. We seem to have lost that recording, unfortunately, but I do have a couple kind of videos that I was just going to quickly show here to just kind of walk through that as a start. So yeah, let me just start these. So this is an early version of this app. So you'll see that it's very similar to Grafana. It's essentially just like an alternative interface to Grafana that uses the same exact connections and everything. So the first chart was just like showing query volume by subgraph. But then here you kind of, this is like where it was actually being useful for me. So here I have it set up where basically I have an interface for each of the logs. And then for each of those logs, I can look at different kinds of error patterns, error summaries, and then I can actually, I already have like an initialized LLM chat that can kind of help me troubleshoot issues with the different components, essentially. And then I can do a number of different things. I can adjust my Postgres database settings, which were a complete disaster, I realized at the start. So I kind of made this interface where you can just easily make those adjustments on the fly. Run different commands, and then also just simulate your allocation management, for example. So it kind of, yeah, basically building on the tutorial that I had shared originally in the past, just kind of taking all that data and making it into an actually useful interface for an indexer. So you can, let's say, close all your allocations and yeah, things like that. Decide on which subgraphs to sync. Which is what you're seeing here. So here you would have things like the total queries, the entity count for the subgraph, the signal, the rewards proportion, and you can kind of have it all in one place and then directly from the interface, you can sync subgraphs. So of course, this is just like a first step. And in fact, this is kind of an early version. So yeah, let me move on to a second video here. Let's see. This is a different example, kind of deleting subgraphs, or like, yeah, using it for like actually deleting subgraphs. So this was a new tab that I added in like a later iteration. So in here, you can already start to delete certain subgraphs based on their size, how many queries they get. And then here you can kind of set up rules around that and then do like a widespread clean pausing and deleting of subgraphs kind of all at once. So yeah, you can kind of see over time like how I was going through and adding more and more features to the app. So let me just keep going through these real quick. Another interesting one is kind of looking at your quality of service metrics. So here you can see kind of by subgraph, by chain, things like latency, blocks behind.
What's your video?
Ricky, yeah, you stop sharing.
Sorry about that.
By the way, we have questions in the chat.
Yep.
Oh,
Great
great.
presentation so far. Do you want to take the questions quickly, Ricky, before we jump back in, or do you want to wait till the end?
Yeah, sounds good. Which were the questions? Let me see. Logs are going into Grafana, or where are the logs being stored? Yeah, so originally the way I set this up for my own indexer, here's the video. So, yeah, so the way I set this up for my own indexer, I basically just had each of the logs go into like a text file, and then I was just like reading from that. But I do want to set it up, where it just like uses the traditional logging stuff. So yeah, I'll be looking into using Loki and other sources. But yeah, like for my own kind of simplicity at the start, that's kind of what I was doing. I was just outputting all the Docker container logs into text files and just reading from those. But in general, my goal is to make it really compatible with like the existing stack. So I've just been using Payne's Docker container stack so far. And basically, like the way it would be set up on a new indexer is that it just essentially reads from the .env files and variables that you would like traditionally have set up, and that's pretty much all that's required. But with Payne, I'm working on a new setup, and yeah, we're gonna kind of evaluate how well it's how to best set it up on that one as well as for other indexers. I'll also say that I haven't been working on this in the last few weeks because I've been needing to upgrade my indexer, and Payne has been super helpful in handling everything for my new unit for my new indexer. And so this will hopefully be a really great collaboration and will hopefully result in us bringing valuable tools to the indexer community. Once the indexer is fully ready, one of the things we'll be looking at will be long-running queries and creating automation around indexes, among other things. There's so essentially, these are all things that I think are worth doing for my own indexer. And then from there, if other people want to use these tools, it would probably start to have a pretty meaningful effect on cost savings if other indexers did want to try some of these out. I want to make the setup as simple as possible. I think one of the simpler ways about that is that it just requires kind of the .env variables and figures things out from there. This part in particular will be a continued work in progress. Big shout out to Payne for his help and kind of enabling me to kind of pursue some of these things. Let me see. Deleting subgraphs directly in a DB or via Graphman API. Yeah, so essentially the way it works is I have a /𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗧 command that works very similar to the traditional one, where when you run it, you can essentially interface with the CLI. So I basically just wrote a slightly different version that just runs one command at a time and then kind of exits. So then with my automation, I can just pipe commands through that directly, essentially, and then interface with that. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. So yeah, like some of this, admittedly, maybe not the best approach right off the bat, but it's kind of like what's been working for me, and yeah, so yeah, I mean, everything is like it's essentially just like taking the tutorial I had already shared, which has all the information around like where all the data comes from, how every step is automated, and like the commands that are sent. So it's essentially just taking that tutorial that I already shared that's available on my website, and it's essentially just creating an interface around it where you can just interface with it. And yeah, right now it's a lot of the things that I would just regularly be doing. But yeah, down the line, it's kind of my goal is to start showing different kind of functional applications of like using AI agents in like actual reasonable ways that hopefully work well. And yeah, I think like for some of these things, it's, of course, there's going to be a lot of skepticism until you kind of see it working really well. So hopefully in hopefully in the future, I'll be able to share a more like live and working version of this. So yeah, apologies. I just have kind of these videos to go off of. I'm just working with Paint to finalize the indexer setup, but that should be coming soon. So yeah, once we get there, we're gonna keep playing around with this for my own indexer, Paint's indexer, and then share more of these tools with whoever wants to be using. Indexer management interface is written in what tech stack? So this is only Python. It's just straight Python. And actually, well, I should say it's using a flavor. It's a tool called Shiny for Python Express. So actually comes from a corporation that specializes in R programming, which is the original tutorial I shared was made in R. So they created kind of some tooling within the Python ecosystem to create applications, and that's what I'm using. But yeah, the tool itself is pretty interchangeable. I think it's like the data and like the actual steps are kind of like the important thing, and those are already outlined. But yeah, this is just kind of showing what it looks like if you take those and start to build like an actual interface around those things. Let me see if I had any. Oh yeah, this is an interesting one. 1 second. Sorry, it looks like I lost my screen share again.
That's right. Yeah.
So okay, hopefully you can still see this. So this is essentially showing kind of your ISA score in real time. So this is taking like the public ISA score repo and kind of like reverse engineering like a pretty close to real time version of that, and just kind of seeing a breakdown of what your score is like across different subgraphs and different chains, and be able to spot any issues and things like that. But yeah, a lot of this was still a work in progress. But yeah, so essentially, when it comes to this interface, as I said, I'm waiting for some things to fall into place for my new indexer before I'll kind of be able to show some things that I think will start to be more useful for the rest of the indexer community. Yeah, I think our main focus right now is going to be, as I said, on the long running queries and creating indexes kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of a part of this broader 7 project roadmap that I shared in chat. That I have like kind of personal projects I'm working on, and yeah, I think for some of these it's good to get some feedback from this group and see if there's kind of any reservations around some of these things. One of the things I was going to share a little bit about is curation, for example. Let me see. Second.
We lost your stream again. I'm not sure if there's there we go. Back again.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, I've been working on a couple tools. So this is one example. I have a curation tool where essentially you can kind of find different opportunities. So here you can see how many queries each subgraph has. So I already showed this to some degree, but it was having some issues in the past. So now I fixed it. And kind of building off of this, I built kind of this example of an agent. I'll just show this just to be quick here. But essentially, you can essentially you have a chat interface by which you can do curation. So here I'm just asking it for like some good opportunities, and it's pointing out 2 that are above 100% APR as an example, and it's just kind of gonna go through all of these, and then I also will kind of visualize these so I can see them over time. And then once I have this information in front of me, I can actually ask it to go ahead and execute on a certain kind of curation strategy, and it's actually going to do that. And I think this is a pretty good example because I think people have an idea of like an AI agent where you maybe like just ask it to do whatever. But in this case, I'm thinking about AI agents as like these really small modular components, essentially, where you can just kind of interface. Like the goal of basically what it would do is it would essentially just know which tools to interface with at the correct times. So when you actually ask it to give you a list of curation opportunities, it would always give you the same list essentially. And you can see this in another tool that I've been experimenting with here, where essentially for any given subgraph, you can essentially get a state from like the status endpoints that will kind of tell you what query consistency is like on the given subgraph, and then when it detects inconsistencies, it's actually able to look up or find the divergence block between different indexers, and then using that information, it can look up the entity changes for the indexers and then compare that to the actual real on-chain information and kind of get to like this on-chain truth. And in this context, you can see that like all the AI agent is doing is it's selecting the appropriate tools for the job versus like an AI agent that actually gives you the response itself. So you can you can see kind of here everything that it was doing and things like that. So yeah, essentially I'm just like doing a lot of experimentation right now with different kinds of AI agents and projects and experiments. In that vein, in fact, let me take a look at my list here. I'm sorry, this is a little bit all over the place. So yeah, kind of going through my list, like the automating curation. I think this is a pretty straightforward thing, and I think there's everything I'm building like is with the goal of kind of improving the protocol in some way, and I think all of these things do, and that's why I think it's nice to be able to discuss these things with this group, is to kind of identify if there's any areas that we think are not things that are beneficial to the protocol, for example. So I mean, in the case of curation, I think it does help direct rewards more appropriately within the system that we have today. And yeah, this one is pretty simple to automate, and actually the returns are pretty great. I mean, I think even on the main network Arbitrum subgraph, for a long time you're making above 55, 60% APR just due to the low curation level relative to the query volume going through. Right now, it's like still above like 30%, which I think, it seems like one of the easier ways of earning a good reward today on the network, and still providing what I think is a useful service. I think, kind of going off of the curation stuff, you could see a very similar design around how you would manage delegations, where you have kind of like this AI tooling, but you ultimately have like a human in the loop that kind of confirms the decisions and makes different kinds of decisions. On the automated delegation one, I haven't made any progress, but you could see this as something where, it's kind of this more objective framework by which indexers can kind of compete for, like, let's say a pool of delegation based on things like the quality of service or returns and like a combination of those things. But yeah, these are kind of like stepping stones. So like each one of these was kind of like a personal project that kind of furthered my my progress towards other projects. So yeah, I think one of the big ones to start is going to be kind of the automating the index operations. So now that I have more confidence in my ability to kind of build some base level agents, like what you saw with curation, I think now I'm gonna start developing some more kind of specialized agents for like managing different aspects of my indexer. So yeah, like the indexes and things like that. And then from there, I think one of the big ones I think that I've identified in my time working for Edge and Node is I've started to realize that automating the subgraph development a little bit more could be like a really nice value add to the ecosystem as a whole. And yeah, I think like having more data available and accessible via the graph is a big one. And I think we can see all of the on-chain activity is available. So I'd like to kind of start chipping away at some of the higher value contracts and projects that currently don't exist on the graph, which we can all see. And I think, especially across certain chains that are supported by the graph, like think Base, maybe Solana down the line. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of activity we can see does not currently exist on the graph, and yeah, just making it easier for that to exist on the graph, I think, is a big one. And I think ultimately, like, it doesn't feel correct to me that your being able to query from the graph would like necessarily come with having to become a subgraph developer, because just in my experience, it's quite challenging. So yeah, on this one, I also started making some progress. It's telling me I can't open it. 1 second. Here we go. Oops. Let me share the correct screen. So this is just kind of a quick demo, and this one is like pretty, like not a lot of work that went into this so far, but essentially you can kind of see that you can provide a contract, and then it would essentially like help you through the whole process of developing the subgraph. So yeah, just kind of skipping through this. You can just generate the schema, and you'll basically have a good starting point. Then it's going to do some more thinking, and it's going to give you like AI powered suggestions of like different things you want to add. In the new version, you can just click a plus button and it applies it to like your schema. Then you move on to the mappings and kind of similar thing. So just trying to like, create some like AI powered development in the correct ways. And I think ultimately, one of the main kind of projects I'd like to work towards is kind of this idea of like creating a really good interface for like content management and writing your own notes. Yeah, and you can think of this as like very Obsidian or Roam Research style, if you're familiar with those. And essentially get all your content information in one place that's like really easy for to interface with for like different kinds of coding projects and things like that. And I think if you start to integrate those those two pieces together, this kind of like knowledge content management system together with like coding and projects and like the things you care about, and integrate those things better, I think you start to have pretty powerful software. And I think if you make that available to people in a way that is very compatible with something like Geo, then I think it starts to like open up some pretty interesting possibilities. So that's kind of like what I'd like to shoot for, is this kind of environment. And I do have a short video of this. But yeah, I'm also, yeah, able, feel free to cut me off if I'm at time now. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know why this one's.
No, we've got a little bit of time, so keep going.
Yeah, so this is just like a very, again, this is an older version at this point, and yeah, I've been really sick. Oh wait, stream hasn't. Thanks.
Yes, yeah, I thought you did that deliberately, but yeah, stream did, and
I'm not very good. So yeah, this is just kind of an early demo of what this looks like. So just storing all my notes in like in a format that's a lot similar to like something like Obsidian, but then you can actually bring that information into like a like more coding type of environment, preloaded with like an LLM, and then you can kind of interface with something that's already set up with like all your contexts, all your files, and it's kind of like its own dev environment. And I see something like this being like a pretty good solution compared to like asking people, for example, to like paying people to fill out a knowledge graph. I think essentially like my take on the Geo crack of work would be to create something that people would be willing to pay for, but make it available for free, and create and make it very compatible with the GRC20 standard. So the what I showed with like my notes, I did manage to make something that is compatible with GRC20 and like writes data into my own database. I'm still tweaking with a lot of different things around this, and it's kind of essentially like my goal is, again, these are all kind of stepping stones in this direction. So I'm trying to create like a much better subgraph development environment that is kind of and the way I hope to get there is by developing more and more of these tools. So yeah, essentially, yeah, just publicly sharing some of my personal roadmap that I'm working on now. My last day at Edge and Node was December 2nd, so I'm essentially just exploring different kind of options in terms of areas where I contribute to the community and how. So yeah, this is just kind of like my public project roadmap for the time being. And essentially, yeah, I'm just trying my best to leverage kind of like the latest and best AI advancements in like the correct way, which again I consider to be a lot of very small modular AI systems, which is what I think we're already seeing. And then I think from there, really tying the knowledge and information to those projects in a way where you don't have to establish context and reset things or things like that. Like really creating a comprehensive system around those things. That's kind of where my head is at, and yeah, that's where a lot of my attention and focus would be. But ultimately, like everything I'm doing, especially right now, is really going to be geared towards making indexer operations streamlined, more efficient, and providing value to this community. So if there's like any areas that you struggle with as an indexer, essentially I want to hear about them and want to see what I can do to help on those things. And yeah, again, apologies for this presentation being a bit all over the place. Yeah, not feeling super good. But yeah, I guess, yeah, any kind of questions, concern, feedback. Yeah, I think we can use the rest for open discussion. And yeah, also, I mean, I think I'll start just sharing all of my code, like especially the Python stuff. Originally, my plan was to kind of develop these tools, use them more for my own work. But yeah, I'm starting to lean more towards, making everything public from the get-go. And, anyone who wants to contribute can. On my website for the query consistency tool, for example, I did make that available. So like the AI agent tool you saw, it didn't look like an open source tool, but it is. Some people are aware of this tool, like Chris, I know, knows about this. We call it DeFi, I think is what it sounds a lot like DeFi when you spell it out. But yeah, I think it would be great, I think, to start moving towards automating some of these things, and I think for certain areas, certainly some value. So yeah, feel free to reach out with kind of any ideas you have. Let me look through the chat if there's any questions. But yeah, unfortunately, I was hoping to have made a little bit more progress by now. But yeah, I've been really sick.
Ricky, your stuff looks great. So,
I appreciate it.
so the things that I heard you say that I'm most interested in are indexer tuning. So the whole find long queries, create indexes thing. That's like super critical. The other thing that you mentioned was around the, how do we get more subgraph developer stuff going on so we can build subgraphs faster and better and easier. I think there was an interesting conversation that was started, I don't know if it went anywhere, around, how do we unify the tool sets that we have around, we have Graph CLI, we've got the substreams dev container, we've got this kind of idea. So how can we build a more holistic set of tools that don't confuse users? So would love to talk to you more about your ideas on this, because I think that's making it easy to build a subgraph is super important. And then the other thing that triggered my thoughts here, and maybe Marc-Andre can jump in, is around POI investigations. So, if we're going to start collecting logs and things like that, if we can make those logs available to some POI investigation tools, that will definitely help. So, very interested in this area as well. So, would love to collaborate with you on these tools.
Amazing. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Those are great call outs. Yeah. Thanks so much, Matthew. On the last point, I'll say that, for the query consistency tool that I did show, I think one of the things I'd like to work towards is I'm waiting basically for graphics to become kind of more publicly available for me to use as a tool, because then you essentially have like this kind of somewhat trusted source of truth when it comes to like the actual data, and then you have an interface that's like really easy for everyone to kind of interface around and collect your own data, but you at least have kind of graphics as like this grounded source of truth, hopefully over time. I think I would love to keep collaborating with you guys on all these things.
Cool. I'll reach out after.
But yeah, thank you so much for giving me the time. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I think that's all I've got for today. Thanks, y'all.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ricky. Really do appreciate that. I did, just before we wrap, put a question in for you to say if you could share the blog post that you shared with me in our private conversation, because I think that does a pretty good job of summarizing like kind of your vision and some of the things you discussed today. I think that'd be really cool. And yeah, if there are any other links as well, please do post. But yeah, maybe I'll throw it back to you if you have any final words before you wrap.
No final words, but I think I'll work towards making the tools that I have today publicly accessible and available if anyone wanted to. Just take a look or start thinking about how some of those could work well for their stack. And I would be curious also, if there's, I imagine for a lot of indexers, it won't be a realistic approach or like path, like what I'm using for my own stack. So and honestly, I'm not too familiar with like what other stacks may look like. I think also exploring, you know, how it would fit in well with something like the Launchpad and like Kubernetes stuff. Yes, these are all areas that, you know, it would be helpful even to get help on. So yeah, I'll just start sharing what I have, and then maybe we can iterate on some of these things as a group. And yeah, ultimately, you know, I think it would there is certainly low-hanging fruit for like yourself as an indexer, and so I think creating tooling that, you know, is more widely utilized, I think would hopefully help. But yeah, pretty much just learning from this group and collecting feedback and information as I go.
There you go. Yeah, I wanted to give you the space there to go through some of the things that you're working on, and yeah, that was fantastic. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing everything. Yeah, don't forget to drop the links in for everyone. We're right up on the hour. So I want to say a special thank you to each and every one of you, not only for being here today, but also for being here throughout the year. I can't believe it. It's the final IOH of 2024. Crazy. Um, and yeah, we just to let you know, we're going to be breaking for the next IOH, which is on the 24th of December, Christmas break. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful break if you do celebrate Christmas, or you know, do take time off during this year. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like, this thing is awesome. We do it every single week. I've got similar faces to show up every week. And we um I was gonna say shoot the ash, but I don't want to swear. I'm I'm not good. I've done that before and it's not good. But yeah, no, this is great. This is an amazing call. And yeah, I love it. I love it, and I'm gonna miss it next week. But yeah, make sure you tap in the new year. I believe 7th of January is the next IWH that's coming up. If I'm not mistaken, I have to check the calendar. Yeah, thanks for posting that in the chat, Ricky. I have read some of your blogs and they're pretty good. Okay, all right, enough waffling for me. Have a wonderful rest of your, yeah, love this community. Happy holidays, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you in the fresh new year that is 2025. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.